Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Wild Your Garden, and with a backdrop of a beautiful wren singing away in the background, I'm back here in France, and believe it or not, that's my garden. Yep, you heard me right, and it stretches back, sort of back to that conifer wall. Even it's not even a conifer, stretches back to that wall approximately, and it's got some fabulous trees in it. There's this gorgeous couple of big spruce trees, another couple behind me here, holly, there's a mature yew, and I've actually planted a lot of trees in this garden down this boundary. There is a boundary line, believe me, down to that hazel from about here, and just off the edge of this wall where I'm stood there's quite a drop, and it goes down a good few feet. But in this video I'm going to be giving you a full garden tour once I can access it. Now, a very brief background behind this garden. This garden, as I say, was planted with many trees, native trees and shrubs, because I really want to increase the biodiversity here in France, as with any other project that I undertake around the UK. And I did that back in March 2020, but obviously that's just when COVID hit, and I then wasn't able to come out for a couple of years. So I only managed a brief glimpse of this garden back in June last year. And if you haven't seen the 10-day tour that I've uploaded to YouTube, then do check that out. I'll put a link to the first episode in this one where I did a full tour of my house, where you can have a look around it, a good nosy around that, and a bit of a tour of the garden, although as you can see it's mostly bramble. So in 2 years it's gone from a flat basic garden, if you like, to a bramble jungle, which has the lovely frontage of the river, the Varenne River, which is absolutely beautiful. But sadly I'm absolutely gutted because, as you can see down there, I lost my two biggest older trees just a month ago. My good friend Christine, my neighbour, informs me in January they had some really bad winds here, and I lost a little cypress tree in the front garden near the house, but I also lost two 60-foot older trees, which I'm absolutely gutted about. Older trees are fabulous trees, and they were the only two big older trees on the site. There's lots of regeneration, and we'll come on to that in a bit, but yes, really gutted, and they now stretch the entire length, or width should I say, of the river. So I'm going to have to get those cleared up one way or another. I won't have time or the equipment to do it this time. I was just coming here to do basically some hedge cutting of brambles to gain access to the garden again, but really sad to see those are blown over. But I am going to have to get those cleared up, obviously, to keep the water flowing so it doesn't cause a dam in the river. Anyway, stick around. In this video you're going to watch me clear this garden, and then we'll do a bit of a garden tour, and I'll show you some of the features. Sadly, as you can see, a few of the trees didn't quite make the tops of the bramble in time, and they've been completely swamped by the bramble, as you can see from next door, which in a way is a good thing, because it means that me cutting this back means that we're not losing a massive amount of habitat, because there is the same size garden again just on the other side of the boundary wall. The boundary wall is just in the middle of these trees, and it's great because there's like tons of bramble next door, which means it's great for the black-capped chiffchaff, willow warbler, any migratory species like that that are going to be nesting within that bramble. And as you can see, some trees have fared quite well. We've got the alder there, which is now a good 15 foot tall, which is absolutely fantastic. But anyway, yes, sadly some haven't made it, but as I say, I just couldn't get back here due to COVID. So just got a bit more this section to clear through now that I've reached the tree belt, and it's looking promising. So looking forward to getting this cleared, and then we can have a look at exactly what I've planted. Well, here we are, here's the garden. We did promise you a bit of a tour. Now bear with me because there are a few things I've not quite finished with, and I will have to come back to do a follow-up video and, more importantly, some follow-up works which we'll come on to in a minute. But I promise you a tour, so here we are. So to my left you can see we have this Roman barbecue pit. That was there obviously when I bought the property, and yeah, I'll probably use it one day, no doubt, who knows. But the most important thing is I've now been through and I've cleared the brambles through here around the back and around the other side. That corner there is a huge pile of rocks, which is absolutely wonderful, and I'm looking to use a lot of those in a video to come. More on that in a minute. But we have a lot of really interesting plants. There's obviously a garden variety of this Kerria japonica, which does have a lovely yellow flower, which is coming out very soon, along with lots of honeysuckle, which is really nice to see the regeneration of this garden. Now, hopefully the mic won't pick up the wind noise. It is quite a windy day here. Now, last time I was here, as I say, was back in June last year, and it was just a green jungle, as you've seen previously, no doubt. And like I say, stick around, because at the end of this video I'll put a link into the Start of the French playlist. If you haven't seen it, full link of the tour around the house and the garden in the depths of summer. But when I first planted the trees that we'll go and have a look at in a moment, it was March 2020, so we've had 2 full years of growth, and when I left everything was flat, everything was ground level. So as you can see, things like this silver birch have really cropped up nicely. Now I can see the wood for the trees if you like, at this time of year. Obviously winter time, a great time to be coppicing and carrying out any management works that you're going to do up until the sort of end of March, when everything's starting to really bud up and of course the birds start breeding, which was the motive behind coming at this time of year, the middle of February, because the birds will still be nesting by the end of March. We've got a robin singing over there, we've got a wren singing over there. It's just a wonderful little spot, bar the odd motorbike on the other side of the river. So yes, these birch have literally shot up within 2 years, and I think what's happened is, little history here for you, this used to be part of the woodland. Up to my left or your right, that is ancient woodland, and that is a wonderful block of ancient oak trees, ash, there's some lime in there, some really old hazel, and it's just an absolute wonderland. So it's absolutely gorgeous. And I think what happened is, just before this plot of land was sold, and just before we bought the house, a lot of the trees in here were cleared to make it feel like more of a garden, probably just for sale purposes. Obviously some of the trees were left. We've got a couple of big spruce to my right, and a fir tree there, which are really nice. We've got this lovely Cotoneaster behind me as well, which still has 1 or 2 berries from the autumn, but these spruce are really nice. I mean, they're 60-foot trees. Well, one of them certainly is a 60-foot tree, so really, really nice. So I think this was part of a bigger woodland scene, and obviously I didn't see the garden before, so I don't know how many trees were here, but I think then what's happened is all the seeds from all the birch in that belt of woodland behind, in the abandoned neighbouring garden, and all the alders that are lining the riverbank along here, all that seed has been obviously dormant here for quite some time, and when the trees were felled, it then let in lots of light in which these trees should grow. So if you follow me this way, welcome to the other jungle. Now this obviously isn't the bramble, but this is a consequence of all those seeds that have been here obviously dormant for a long time. A lot of this is goat willow. You can see just how supple goat willow is, and just why willow is used very much in a lot of fencing and screening, particularly in hedge laying. It's used a lot to create the sort of the tie-offs on the top to really finish a hedge off when it's been laid. So they've been obviously doing very well in this damp conditions, or in these damp conditions, because as you can see the river is over there to my left, so this whole area is quite a damp area. And here we have one times gigantic alder, A-L-D-E-R, not the E-L-D-E-R that we were used to in our gardens. A very, very, very good tree for siskins, redpoll, tits. They love the seeds from these, and they are very good for moth larvae as well. So alder is a really good tree, and it loves having its feet wet. So that's why this tree is now 12 foot within 2 years. I mean, it's just phenomenal. It really is. I can't believe the size of it. The trunk at the bottom is a good 3-4 inches across. So absolutely fantastic. I'm very tempted to leave this tree in, take away the lower branches to promote growth in the what's known as the terminal bud, which is the bud right at the top. And otherwise this might become what's known as a bit of a co-dominant tree, or co-dominant stems, where they are 2 stems competing together, and quite often they can grow apart, and in some rare occasions the tree can then fail because it's trying to support 2 main leading stems. You see it quite a lot in ash trees, not so much in alder, but I'd like to make this the main leader and probably keep this as a tree because it's such a lovely specimen, and for reasons that we'll come on to in a moment, we'll see why I'd like to keep one of these trees at least, if not more. So let's take a bit of a wander this way, and then we'll come back along the river edge. So as you can see, more goat willow here, absolutely tons of it, 12, 15 foot, 20 foot, that one even, and some of it is starting to, that one there is starting to flower now. You can see at the tops, really does look absolutely gorgeous, just glistening silver buds in the sunlight at the moment. So I'm going to leave these in for the time being. I will be carrying out some coppice management because I'd like to create more of a woodland belt along this side. This is the western side, so the sun will be setting over the top of the trees and over the top of the woodland, so this will get the morning sun. Be a great spot to have, let some of the bramble come back but maintain it for butterflies in the morning throughout the summer months when the bramble is flowering. But yes, this block here, I think I will end up having to remove most of. However, it's not all in vain, because a lot of the trees in here, such as round the back, there's an absolutely corking silver birch, which is at least 15 foot tall, if not 18 foot tall. So I'm going to actually transplant some of these. So keep this area in mind. We'll move on, but I'll show you where some of these are going in a moment. But this is a mix of mostly birch, goat willow, and some alder in there as well. And in the middle of that lot, at some point, I might bring the kids out in the summer and start the makings of a wildlife pond, because this garden is teeming with pool frogs in the summer. They are absolutely gorgeous, and lizards as well, wall lizards everywhere. So yes, I'd like to create a pond. That seems like a natural spot, a natural low-lying depression. So a lot of these will go and they'll be moved, and I'll show you where in a second. More honeysuckle in there, and the holly will be coming this way. Now, as I say, this part, which as you've just seen, was 6 to 8 feet of bramble mayhem, and my God, are my arms feeling it today after yesterday's efforts. I've got a nice patch of Lonicera there, Lonicera nitida, which is, it's not a native, but it does create some really good cover for nesting birds. And on top of it, you can see the lovely serrated leaves of sweet chestnut. There's a lot of sweet chestnut in this part of France, which are a lovely tree, used a lot for chestnut pale fences that you might see. There's a lot of sweet chestnut in the south of England. I can't see the tree at the moment where these came from, but there's a lot of leaves in there, which is good. So this is a nice patch for the birds to nest in. It's nice and dense. So for the blackcap, the willow warbler we hear here, the wren that's singing away in the background, chiffchaps, a lot of the summer migrants, they will love to be nesting in here. And I'd forgotten I'd got this here. I've got a little bit of refugia. Refugia, for those that don't know, are things like this old bit of tin sheeting, which are obviously used for old shed roofs, and I like to keep that there just because it's the perfect spot to, in the spring, April through to sort of June time, first thing in the morning, to lift that up and find slow worms, grass snakes. I can't wait to be checking that, obviously, when I am here at those times of year. It's just a perfect spot for them. They like to bask and warm up on the metal as it warms in the morning sun, which will hit this nicely. More very spiky brambles. My hand are like a second-hand dartboard from yesterday. But yeah, so that's a nice clump of goat willow, again 20 foot plus, that I will probably coppice some of them, remove some of them, because again, I appreciate this garden wants to be a woodland belt, and it should be in essence, but I'd like to obviously see it, I'd like to enjoy it, I'd like to maintain it and increase the floral diversity, because it really is something special with this damp meadow opportunity that we have below us. So which we'll come on to in a moment, but this is where I planted the main block of trees with Nikki back in 2020 in March, and as you can see, we've had some successes, some failures. That corner was just mayhem. There was 12 feet of bramble in that corner, no problem, and there are only 2 to 3 trees that have made it. There's a wych elm that I planted in the corner and a silver birch which just managed to get above the bramble. Bramble, of course, in the wild is a good preventative for deer. Obviously, for younger trees to establish, particularly things like holly, which they're not so fond of, they can actually grow up right the way through the middle of a bramble patch, and the brambles actually provide a nice bit of cover for them to establish and then develop into trees. And then once the tree canopy shades over, the brambles sort of disappear. So nature doing what it does best. Anyway, this was all planted. Sadly, I've lost a lot of larch through here, which I really wanted. Larch is a fabulous tree, but it's such a shame that was lost. Anyway, there are some bonuses. It's let me have a lot of area in here for now planting all those new saplings. Well, some of them. I've got some hazel I want to move into here as well. And at this time of year now, 2 years on, I just want to, well, nearly 3 years on, I want to remove the remaining guards from these trees. I should say, guys, these can be recycled, so don't throw them away if you're looking to plant any new saplings. These are purely rabbit guards. I wasn't sure whether there were rabbits here or not in the first winter, so I put them around the base of the tree, and lo and behold, there aren't any rabbits. But you can reuse these, so don't panic. I did clear some conifers. This was a row of conifers along here originally, and you can see some of the old stumps. I left the old stumps in for hopefully maybe some stag beetles if it's not too wet. And there was an old birch you can see here, which I didn't cut down, out brambles, but that is a lovely old trunk, and I obviously left that in along with this wall, which is perfect habitat for lizards, absolutely just brilliant. And so with a lot of the logs, I made some log stacks. There's log stacks here, I've got a log stack here, and a rather nice little find I had earlier in one of the other log stacks over there. So these just sort of peel off if they don't come out straight away. Come back and collect those. It's important not to let these sort of cut in and dig into the trees as they get older. This is a cherry, the only cherry that survived, but that's hopefully going to make it now as a nice tree. We've got 3 crab apples here. Crab apple, the springtime blossom of a crab apple is really, really good. Things like green hairstreak really love them. Yeah, you see, this is the trouble as well. They can become full of soil from ants a lot of the time, so you just don't want that around the tree after year 2, really, once they've got up and they're out the ground. Another cane there. So I'm a bit tight on time today, but I'm going to come back and just prune some of these dead branches off and clean these trees up when I come back in the next video, so stay tuned for that, because we'll come on to why I've got to come back in a moment. Occasionally these can get a bit brittle and break, like this one, but I believe you can now recycle these, so don't just throw them away as landfill. And this one has got some soil over it, so I'm just cleaning that off. The tree has actually started to root because it thinks that part of it is in the ground, and I'm sure that'll grow up nice and sturdy. Of course, this was designed to partly as well be a coppice belt, so some of these individuals I'm going to coppice back because they are really good when they are coppiced. I've done a full video on the benefits of coppicing, so do check that out. I'll put a link into it at the end of this one. You can see they do, after time, become rather stuck around these trees if you're not careful. By the way, guys, bit of a shameless plug, if you're still looking to buy any bare root trees, we do have them on the online shop, wildyourgarden.com. If you need any, available until around the end of March, when you can plant bare root trees until. Quite satisfying when they do that. I have got in here as well, there's some nice dogwood. Dogwood, a very, very, very good shrub for wet, heavy soils. Absolutely loves it. I mean, look at that. That's a really nice bushy specimen, and they will spread by runners as well. So a really nice tree, or shrub should I say. They can create a tree if left. That one's sort of almost grown around the cane. Oh, and snapped off. Well, again, shows you need to get these out as soon as possible. So if you come with me now, I'll show you why I've got to come back in a few weeks' time. What an absolute shame this is. These are my 2 favourite trees on the whole, in the whole garden, and you can see they actually had a really bad storm here in January, and these 2 older trees were 60 foot plus, and this one of them's gone that way towards the willow tree which goes out over the river, which is, touch wood, still alright, but the other one is a bit of a problem because it's gone right the way across the Varenne. This is the Varenne river which flows into the Mayenne, which flows into the Loire, so it's all part of the Loire river system. And as you can see, that has now created a definite barrier for anybody on a kayak. There's no boats that come past here because just downstream towards the town there is a little weir, so the boats can't get past that. However, I do obviously have an obligation. I don't want to upset the local mayor, so I'm going to have to get back in a couple of weeks and get that out, bring back my winch, hopefully get some local help with the tractor possibly to try and pull it out. I'm still contemplating the process with that, so that's going to be a bit of a job. So that's why I've got to come back in a few weeks just to get that cleared to allow the river to flow properly again, because that's just going to keep building debris up. However, it will leave me with a good opportunity to get some logs and some brash stacks out of it. Right, let's head back this way. There's a couple of things I want to show you. So here is another one of the log stacks that are left over from the conifer removal that I undertook a couple of years ago, and this log stack does have loads of lizards all through it in the summer. It's absolutely brilliant, the wall lizards that are here in France, and there's a gorgeous, what I believe is tufted hairgrass next to it. Now, when I was cutting some of the brambles back around it, I found a really, really lovely little discovery, and that is the remains of a little mouse or vole nest, which it could be field vole. There are harvest mice do obviously make a lovely little round nest like that, but just goes to show the importance of having longer tussock grass throughout the summer, which is still important through the winter months as well. But obviously this is where, don't worry, it wasn't in this when I disturbed it earlier, but they will use that in the summer months obviously as a nest. So lovely to see, and a really good reason to have lots of log piles in your garden. I can't stress how important it is to have loads of log piles. So if we head this way, not much more to show you. Sadly, this was one of the spruce trees, that we lost a couple of years back, actually just after I'd finished carrying out the initial clearance works, just a month or two back in March 2020. After I'd finished the planting works, or around about that time. Anyway, that didn't go across the river, but has created a really nice habitat in terms of this flaky bark. And he's not there today, but there was an absolutely cracking beetle about that big under it yesterday that was this kind of metallic green. It looked blue from the top, but then the different lights, it was sort of greens and browns. Absolutely gorgeous. Really, really love seeing that. So that's really nice to have, and again, another reason to have rotting wood and dead wood and piles of logs in your garden. Absolutely brilliant for beetles. And here you can see the river. We've got lots more older saplings growing up, which are again a really nice habitat. And with losing those two there, which it is such a shame, as I say, that's why I want to enable more alders to grow in that woodland belt, because they are just fantastic trees for birds, as I say, and many other insects as well. This old conifer is obviously, I wouldn't put it there through choice. It was obviously planted there many years ago. However, it does bring in the gold crests when they are around. Really, really nice to see them. So yes, this is the main block of trees that I want to clear. Again, these gorgeous, absolutely perfect specimens. I mean, that is just as straight as a die. That just absolutely perfect. Cracking older tree. So yes, older birch, I'm going to be digging up some of those, putting them in the new woodland belt over there. Now, if you come this way, I've got something else that's rather spectacular. So down here, I'll put a clip in over the piping notes of a kingfisher, which I have seen up and down the river on many occasions. There is a little plant called toothwort or clandestine, which is a gorgeous little plant, and it's kind of semi-parasitic, so it will only live on the roots of trees and shrubs, like this willow. And it's absolutely brilliant. This time of year, it's got these gorgeous violet purple flowers that just come up out of the base of around the tree. Absolutely fantastic. So another lovely addition to the garden. This I believe is a lime, which I'll know more when it comes back into leaf, but I'm pretty sure that's a lime. And in the middle of it you can see there is an old bird's nest. So again, the importance of dense regrowing vegetation in terms of coppicing is absolutely brilliant for birds. There is a bit of bramble that side which I've left. I will leave this year. The most important thing you can have in a wildlife garden is a mosaic of habitats, as I've said time and time again. So yes, good to not cut everything back, good to just leave some corners of your garden and manage it on a rotation if you can over 2 to 3 years, because it gives time for things to redevelop, regrow and re-establish themselves, so that you're never without cover vegetation and habitat, of which many animals obviously do rely on. So that's a little tour of the garden as it is at the moment. Obviously lots of changes to come, and I will be doing more follow-up videos on, fingers crossed, unless I don't manage to get back to cut the tree up for whatever reason, on the removal of the tree from the river, the installation of a wildlife pond in time, and moving some of these trees and shrubs. So do stick around, guys. Check out the French playlist. As I say, lots of videos on the beautiful country of France. I am a little bit biased because I'm just totally in love with this place, but I'm sure once you've seen a few of my videos you'll appreciate the beauty, the natural beauty of this fabulous country. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate the support. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Give the video a like, and I'll be sure to bring you many more updates from this garden here in France, along with all the other ways in which you can help wildlife in videos to come. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.